Hey guys, it's been way too long since I posted an update, and I'm sorry about that. There's also been some confusion about the new formatting requirements on the board, which I've cleared up. So these next few stories are going to be posted a little differently. They'll be in chronological order, and I'll do my best to tie them into each other as much as I can, so it doesn't skip around too much. When I first started out as a rookie, no one had really told me about the job in terms of weird things that could happen. I'm assuming this was largely to prevent me from freaking out and abandoning the park, but a few months into my service, when I was still a rookie, a friend and I were drunk at a party when he opened up a little bit. Yeah, it can get a little crazy out there, I guess. I think the worst ones are where people die when they just shouldn't, you know? Or when we find them dead like 10 minutes after someone says they saw him last. They were fine when I passed them on the switchback, I swear. That's sort of shit. Like, take this guy who I found one spring on a really popular trail. Someone comes into the VC freaking out about how some guy's lying in the middle of the path in this giant pool of blood. So we run out there, and we find this guy dead as a doornail, which he absolutely should be, because the back of his head is like mashed potatoes. The skull is decimated, brains are leaking out like custard filling, and the guy's so old you figure, yeah, he probably just fell and hit his head. Old people fall all the time. It's no big deal, except that this area where he fell doesn't have any big rocks. There's not even any stumps or big branches, and on top of that, there's no blood trail, so he clearly died where he dropped. Now, that's when you turn to murder, right? But there were people just out of the line of sight with this guy. If someone came up behind him and murdered him, there'd be no way that someone wouldn't have heard. And again, even if someone had, there'd be a blood trail and splatter all over the place. But everyone on the scene said it looked exactly like he just fallen and smashed his head on a rock. So what the fuck did he hit his head on? And then there was this lady that I found at a different park, I think about 5 years ago, back when I was upstate. We found her in the middle of a stand of big junipers, curled around the trunk, I think, like she was hugging it. We pick her up to move her, and a fucking waterfall comes out of her mouth, splashes all over my shoes. Her clothes are dry, her hair is dry, but the amount of water in her lungs and stomach was phenomenal. Shit was unreal, man. The coroner's report says that the cause of death was drowning. Her lungs were completely full of water. This, even though we're in the middle of the high desert, and there isn't a body of water for miles. No puddles, no nothing. No signs of anyone who'd be out there. I mean, yeah, it's possible they were murdered, but why go out of the way to do it like that? Why not just stab him and be done with it? I don't know, it just sits weird with me. Now, of course that freaked me out a little, but we were wasted, and I guess I sort of wrote it off as a fluke. I also assumed that there was exaggeration there since, you know, we were wasted. Now, I don't like talking about the next case very much. It was an awful one that I've done my best to forget about, but of course, that's easier said than done. This happened about 6 months after the conversation with my friend at the bar, and up until that point, I hadn't had a lot of weird shit go down. A few things here and there, and of course the stares, but it's amazingly easy to get used to stuff like that when it's treated as if it's normal. This case was a little different, though. A guy with Down syndrome in his 20s went missing after his family lost sight of him on a major path. That was odd in and of itself, because the guy never left his mom's side. She was absolutely convinced that he'd been kidnapped, and unfortunately, a ranger who isn't with the park anymore insinuated that no one was going to kidnap someone, well, with that kind of disability. Not very tactful, to say the least. We wasted a lot of time trying to calm her down enough to get information about him, and then we put out an official missing persons call. Because of the urgency of the situation, him being mostly unable to function alone, we had local police come in and help us. We didn't find him the first night, which was heartbreaking. None of us wanted to think of him being alone out there. but we assured that he had just kept wandering and was staying ahead of us. We brought out the helis the next day, and they spotted him in a little canyon. I helped bring him back up, but he was in bad shape, and I think we all knew he wasn't going to make it. He'd fallen and broken his spine, and he couldn't feel his lower half. He had also broken both of his legs and one of the femurs. He had lost a lot of blood. He was confused and scared while he was alone, so he'd probably exacerbated the injuries by dragging himself a little ways. I know it sounds awful, but while I was riding in the chopper with him, I asked him why he'd wandered off. I just wanted something to tell his mother, to let her know that it wasn't her fault, because he was fading fast and I didn't think she'd get to ask him herself. He was crying. He said something about how the little sad boy had wanted him to come play, and he said that the little boy wanted to trade so he could go home. Then he closed his eyes, and when he woke up again, he was in the canyon. I'm not sure if that's exactly what he said, but that's what I thought the gist of it was. He kept crying and asking where his mommy was. I held his hand and tried my best to keep him calm. "It was cold out there," he kept saying. "It was cold out there. My leg was frozen. It was cold out there. It's cold in me." He's getting even weaker, so he eventually stopped talking, and he closed his eyes for a while. Then, we were about 5 minutes from the hospital. He looked right at me, with the biggest tears running down his face, and said, "Mama won't see me no more. Love Mama. Wish she was here." And he closed his eyes, and he just never woke up. It was horrible, and I don't like talking about it. That case was one of the first ones that really rattled me badly. Because of how badly it affected me, I reached out to a senior ranger who ended up helping me through it a lot, actually. As time went on and we kept getting to know each other better and better, he ended up sharing one of his own stories with me. It was disturbing, but it helped to know that I wasn't the only one affected by the things going on out there. I think this must have happened before you got here, because I think if it had happened while you were here, you'd have remembered it. I know it didn't end up making the news for some reason, but I think most people who have been here long enough know about it. The park sold off a portion of land to a logging company. It was a really controversial thing, but it wasn't that large or old of a plot, and it was right after the recession, so we needed the cash bad anyway. They were feeling this plot of land, and we get a call that we need to get our supervisors right away. I don't know why, but they ended up sending me and a few other guys along with the heads. I guess for power and numbers, to see what was up. We got there, and these guys are crowded around a tree that they've just cut down. They're all pissed off and freaking out, and the foreman comes over and he says he wants to know what we think we're up to. "What the hell do y'all think this is? Some kinda sick joke? You got a lot of fucking nerve pulling this shit. We bought this land fair and square." We don't know what the hell he's talking about, so he brings us over to this felled tree and points at it and tells us that when they cut it down, it was just like this. And they'll be damned if they put it there. The inside of the tree was all rotted out and hollowed in one spot, and when they cut it down, it had exposed that chamber. But inside of it is a hand, like a perfectly severed hand, and it looks like it's actually fused to the inside of the tree. Well, now we think they're pulling a joke, so we tell them that we don't like being fucked with, and we start to leave. And they tell us that they'd already called the cops, and that they'll go right to the media if we don't stick around. Well, that gets the head's attention, so they stick around and talk to the police about it. Everyone is denying that they put the hand in there, and besides, how would anyone have even done it? It's clearly a real hand, but it's not mummified or skeletal. It's brand new, probably not even a day old, and it's definitely fused with the wood. You can see that it's coming right out of it. The loggers, they insist that they didn't put it there. Somehow this fresh human hand ended up fused to the inside of this living tree. The cops have them cut up that section of the tree into a movable chunk, and then they take the hand away, and the area is closed off. It was a pretty big investigation, but I know they didn't find any answers. And now it's become this legend. As far as I know, you haven't sold any more property for logging. As you all know, I went to a training seminar recently, and I heard some amazing and horrible things while I was there. One of the guys who I talked to while I was there told me a story when we were all around the campfire one night. We were both pretty drunk. You'll see a pattern here. And we were swapping stories. And he told me this one. Me and this other guy were out on a field search because some campers reported screaming noises at night. So we head out there and look for whatever fucking mountain lion has wandered into the area. And I'm pissed. I mean, we've had 3 of them show up in the camping areas that year alone, and I'm getting tired as hell of constantly having to deal with them. Plus, I just don't like them anyway. They're a pain in the ass, and they're loud, and they scare the shit out of me. Fucking cats. Pieces of shit. I'm groaning about it to the guy that I'm with, and he thinks it's a real fucking riot. So we're seeing all these broken branches and what look like dens, and we're pretty sure that we know where this thing is. I call in, and they tell me to confirm if possible, which you know means that they want you to step in a big pile of shit and use that as proof. I'm not seeing any though, and I basically just tell them to shove it. I'm done. We all know this damn thing's out here somewhere, even if I'm not stepping in its shit or outside its mouth or whatever. Guys I'm with wanders off to take a piss or whatever, and I stay behind watching this little burrow under a tree to see if maybe a fox or something is living under it, because I love foxes, man. They're cute as hell. But anyway, I'm watching this tree, and I start hearing branches crackling, and it's coming from the direction that my partner went opposite of. Now I've got my pistol, but you and I both know that that's not going to do shit against a cat. I cock it and holler for my partner to get his dumb ass back, but he's too far and he can't hear me. I stand up, and I get my sights on where the thing is approaching. And I shit you not, man, I just about peed myself. The guy is coming towards me, and he's backflipping through the fucking woods. Like, instead of walking, he's doing these crazy fucking backflips. I swear to God, he's cleared every log and bush in his path. It's like he knew right where he was going. I yell at the guy to stop where he is, and then I'm pointing the gun right at him, but he just keeps coming, and I kinda lost it. I shut at the ground in front of him, and it was a dumb fucking thing to do, but man, I didn't want this guy anywhere near me. When I fired, he was about 50 yards from me, but as soon as the gun goes off, he whirls around and goes off, backflipping into the woods. My partner hears my gun go off and runs back and asks what's up, and I tell him that there's some fucking weirdo out here, hopped up on God knows what, and we need to get the hell out of Dodge. I tell the cops what happened, and I didn't get in any trouble for firing, but man, I don't know what that motherfucker was on, but I've never seen anything like that before. Shit's been absolutely buttfuck crazy. I think we can all agree that there's stuff going on out here in the woods, and while I'm not going to spout off what it could be or offer any theories, what I want people to take away from all this is that it's so damn important to be safe when you're out there. I know a lot of you think you're invincible, but the fact is that you can die out there, or be hurt, or go missing. It's easier than you'd ever imagine. I apologize for this relatively short update, guys. I'll do my best to continue this series as soon as possible. Thank you all for your continued support. It means the world to me.